Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Another incredible edition of Tech Watch. We keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. Radio and TV. You got to dig it. We're available at npitechguys.com. That's npitechguys.com. And we're underwritten by several people. Loving Liberty Networks, by Network Providers, Inc. They do a great job as well. When you want to partner for IT, think networkprovidersinc.com. I work for them. Jay doesn't, so we kind of represent the industry at large in tech, if you will. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Hey, Sam. How's it going?
Absolutely fantastic, sir, but it's cold.
Yeah, it's warming up in Florida. It's been last weekend was cold, but now we're just going to be like lows in the 50s, highs in the low 80s.
Who's that? Puxatawny? Is that who it is?
Yeah,
Coming
up
out.
in Pennsylvania. That's where that big snowstorm came from, right? Last week.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
We got blizzard in.
So our prayers are with the northeastern states. They've been under a real battle with the snowstorms. And I mean, it's been brutal for them. Power outages and everything else. So a big, huge prayers going out for them. And, I hope that in some way technology can actually help with that. Thank heavens that they've got modern tech that can do a lot of good. Some of the modern equipment and stuff can really make a difference. I don't know what it would have been like in the olden days. I mean, they just basically got locked down for, I'm sure, weeks and couldn't really do anything about it, Jay.
I would assume so, yeah. I think they just got out there, and which they're doing now. They're calling on people to just snow shovel, man. Grab the shovels and let's go, and let's clear it out and make things passable. And I think that's what they did in the old days too.
Well, which is good, but it's kind of weird to me, though. They're kind of having some kind of rules or registration or something before you can. I don't even understand that, right?
I don't know. It seems like you can just pay people cash or whatever for that kind of stuff, but I don't know. Everybody's got to.
Well, why do you got to do anything? Just show up with your shovel, man. I'm just here.
Yeah, community service, right? I don't know. I don't think they'll get as good a turnout, though. I think they're paying people like $50 an hour. So, I mean, I'd probably even jump in on that.
I'm just saying. See, that's just strange, though. Come on. Why don't we use private sectors and churches and everybody else and say, hey, man, like the Boy Scouts, do a good turn daily or like whatever, and just, hey, bring out the volunteer brigade and just say, hey, let's just get this done. We all care. It's local community oriented. We need to just do it. Anyway,
I'm sure they get that done, even in New York.
I pray, because that's important, ladies and gentlemen. Our prayers are with them, and I hope all kinds of groups come to their aid because it's necessary. And if the tables are turned, I'd sure pray somebody would be my brother's keeper in my case and help me out too. So there you go. Enough of that, but I bring that up because it seems like some technology should be able to help quite a bit with that massive cleanup and with restoring power and all that kind of stuff. So there you have it. All right. Messaging apps by rank. This is interesting, Jay, because messaging apps, I know they've been around for a decade or two?
Oh, yeah. They've been around forever.
Well, not really. I mean,
I think AOL Instant Messenger. AOL Instant Messenger really kind of almost predates the web as we know it.
Yeah. So AOL Instant Messenger came out in the 90s?
Yeah.
And so all I'm saying is that's really short-lived when you think about the history of the world and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty short-lived. And the modern messengers that we have now that have chat and video and voice and encryption and all these other functions and whatever, I mean, they're fairly new in terms of 10, 20 years old kind of at best. But, man, they've taken the world by storm, buddy.
They have. And, we talked about this before about kind of where Telegram was and in different ones. We remember things like Google Talk. I use that a lot. I use Trillion, was an instant messenger that could coordinate between the two. It had AOL and ICQ and a bunch of different ones all together in it. But the current state of the way things are right now, the biggest messenger apps worldwide by users is, as we know, WhatsApp is number one with 3 billion users.
3 billion users. Okay, how many people are in the world? 9 billion or something almost? So
yeah,
a
last
third
I heard
of the
like
world's on it?
8-ish, maybe approaching 9, right?
Third of the world
WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp. WhatsApp. That's incredible.
And it's surprising because
part of the reason this is the case, Jay, is a couple of folds so people understand. It has to do with a lot of country laws and rules and guidelines and what was available when is part of it. The other part of it is leapfrog of technology. A lot of these other countries never really got the desktop computing days fully enforced like we did and stuff. They were leaping forward to payment systems and other things on small handheld phone devices because they were a lot less expensive. They weren't a full computer, but people could get them a lot easier, and they dealt with more portable lifestyles and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of reasons that there's so many people on these apps. Whole countries leapfrogged in many ways ahead of the United States on some of this. That's why the average American doesn't even live life in the, quote, messaging app world like some of these other countries. And I say that because I'm studying going to England and Scotland and some of these other places, Ireland, and WhatsApp and some of these other apps are like a way of life there. If you don't have a WhatsApp, they're like, buddy, I can't even register you for your hotel and stuff. I mean, it's insane. And I guess I'm just an ignorant American, but I didn't even really realize that. But as I study it and try to decide about going over there and some of those things come up, and I'm like, what? You're telling me I got to get WhatsApp to get my hotel? It's just crazy, but it is true.
Yeah, that's the way. It's like living in America without a credit card.
Exactly. And the same thing's kind of true where you're not even able to pay certain things or get bus passes or other, there's a lot more public transportation over there. You can't do a lot of that kind of stuff without it. I mean, it's just shocking of how embedded into societal. I mean, it's like messaging apps have become a utility there, Jay.
Yeah, and it's amazing how embedded and how integrated it is with everything, especially being that it's a third party. It's not started by a government. Well, what if they shut down tomorrow? Where would everybody be at?
They'd be forced to switch to some replacement quick and fast.
That's right.
I'll tell you that.
Coming in second, so you got 3 billion users on WhatsApp. 1/3 of that is second place. So it's kind of a distant second, and that's iMessage. And I would have thought
kind of a distant second, 1/3. So you're saying it's 1/3 of the size?
Yeah,
that is a
1 billion people.
Massive distant second, right?
Yeah. iMessage, that's baked into the iPhone. So, I mean, everybody with iPhone is on iMessage. That counts.
And so here's what happened. Just so you know, the iPhone didn't do as well in some of these other countries. The Androids and some of these other phones took off big time. And that's why, because, iPhone is limited, number one. And number two, they were kind of behind the 8 ball until they kind of created their messaging. Now in America, we went from kind of desktops and some of the apps that you spoke of to kind of the iPhone, which kind of left us a lot behind. And that's why we're on kind of I don't want to use the term, but second tier, not in terms of capabilities necessarily, but in terms of usage. That's why that kind of happened, is a lot of these other countries where Android and other phone systems are way, way, way more prolific. In in the United States, it's kind of, I don't know, half and half maybe or something, or maybe a little bit more Android than iPhones, but iPhones are massive. In other countries, they're not so, Jay.
Yeah. I would even say in the U.S. as a whole, probably the iPhone outpaces Android. We'd have to look that up to see. That would be my guess.
I'm just telling you, it's a lot more even in America, though, than in other countries. I'm telling you that right now.
Oh, yeah. You take a country like India or something, and it's almost 100% Android.
Well, and isn't India, don't they have more people population-wise than any other? I mean, they've got...
Yeah.
Anyway.
I
don't know the numbers, but I mean, it's like 1/6 of the world is India alone or something like that.
Right.
It's crazy. So,
well,
I mean, we're kind of sheltered, and we're kind of we don't really know kind of in America really too much about this, but it's strange, right? Anyway, keep going though. So that's a distant second, right?
Yeah, a distant second. However, the third is not so distant. The third is closing in and about to surpass. At 950 to 1 billion users is Telegram.
How many users?
950 million to 1 billion users. So probably they're closing in on that, and they're going to, forecast they're going to jump iMessage and be in second place here in the next couple of months.
Wow, that's incredible, right?
Yeah, so it's rapid growth globally, especially strong in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, but also gaining a lot of strength here in the U.S., Telegram. Next up is a very, very distant fourth, Signal, with 40 million users.
And Signal's the one in America that people go to a lot because they believe that it's all encrypted and that it's all good and safe. And, you just saw a congressman that got busted using Signal for this and that. And some of the people with J6 use Signal, and other people are like, oh, yeah, you got to get on Signal because it's all safe and protected. But it's not really the truth, Jay. I mean, it's just not a thing. No,
but it does get the benefit, at least in everybody's eyes, I think, of being the most secure. And, I personally think like Threema would be the most secure. That's where you actually you and I would have to meet in person and exchange QR codes for the encryption algorithm on our phones physically, and then when we're apart, we can text. That's Threema, if you guys are ever interested in that. But I think that was probably more secure, but it's not nearly as. I mean, it doesn't even make the list here.
And which one is this?
Threema.
Threema. Okay, see, I haven't even heard of it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if you know, but they say 72% of all smartphones worldwide are Android.
That makes sense. And what about just the US?
27% is iPhone. And then they have some that are tiny fractions that don't matter, right?
Yeah. I mean, what else do you got besides that?
And the reason that's so, well, you've got, some other knockoffs of Chinese phones and some other strange things, but they're so small it's not worth discussing, really, right?
People still running their Nokia.
But I bring that up because the reason why this is so, Jay, really is because it's a wealth game. So in America, people can buy iPhones. Most of the world can't buy or afford an iPhone. So there's all kinds of Android builds that are a lot less expensive, but pretty capable.
There's a lot of Android builds also that clone the iPhone, that look like the iPhone, and they're really not.
But they're a lot cheaper, though.
Oh, yeah.
So look like it or not, the point is it's a dollars and cents game, and it's an adoptability. See, they were adopting these as they leapfrogged in technology. They were adopting these Androids at low cost before the iPhone even kind of was a big thing. Now, in the United States, the iPhone is king. It's more popular than Android by quite a bit. Do you know the number? You want to guess?
I would guess iPhone 60%.
Yes, sir. It's 58 to 61%, they say.
Dang, that's a good guess.
Android, it is an incredible guess. Android, 38% to 42%. They say U.S. is one of the few major markets where the iPhone strips the Android. Anyway, I bring that up because it's interesting. We'll keep talking about this because there's another interesting messaging app or whatever else that I want to talk about. It's called Quanta Sure. QUANTASURE, QuantaSure.com. And they make some interesting claims that I want to talk about too. We'll do it in seconds. You're watching Liberty Round or Tech Watch Radio, Tech Watch TV. We call it Tech Watch. We keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. Sam and Jay talking tech. All right, WhatsApp is taking the world by storm. 3 billion users?
Yes, sir.
The next one right after that is what? Telegram at 1 billion?
Tied pretty much. You have iMessage and Telegram at 1
Oh,
billion.
iMessage and Telegram tied. Well, so in America and Canada, it's really like 60-40 iPhones. But in China, it's 22% iPhone, 75-80% Android. In India, listen to this, it's like 4 to 6% iPhone, 93 to 95% Android. Germany, 30-35% iPhone, 65% Android. So this illustrates how Android literally dominates in the high populations and the price-sensitive markets like India, China, while iOS does well for the wealthy people. Now, the interesting thing about it is, like I say, that's why some of these other apps are doing so well and why the iMessage app or whatever you want to call it will never do that well unless they would be smart enough. I personally think again, this is where the Apple people or the whatever you want to call it, Macintosh people or the iOS people, whatever their words are for the company here. And the reason I say whatever the words are is because things have changed, right? And we just say Apple for everything now. That's not the way it used to be, though. But anyway, my point is they were leapfrogging us with a lot of things, Jay, early on. And that really kind of controls the narrative, right?
Yeah, I think that if Apple were to make their iMessage more open, like where I could install it on Windows computer, for example, or on an Android
like
phone.
Telegram.
Yeah, I think they would have, and they may actually have lost this inertia now, but I think 5 years ago, if they had done that, they would have dominated by now the entire instant messaging thing, even have beat out WhatsApp.
No question. I think you're right about that for sure. And what I find interesting is if you really want to, you kind of wonder what's going to be the future, because are they going to just be able to keep this dominance, or will things start to eke into this? Will Telegram continue to grow, or what will happen with that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll continue to grow, but I just don't see how when you're at 1 billion and you got to go to 3 billion, I don't see how you're going to get there. I also don't really see how anybody else is going to compete in these markets. I mean, to get 1 billion users or in the billions of users on something, I just don't see how you can crack that market, Jay.
It's incredible rate of adoption. I think you just got to build the bigger, better mousetrap, and people will flock to it.
I think that's true. It doesn't appear like it, but again, in 20, 30 years, we'll never, we'll see that and we'll say, oh, how did that happen? Well, people did build a better mousetrap. People took their eye off the ball at the whatever companies, or, once the companies get to certain size, they lose their ability to be innovative. They lose their ability to bring new details to the table. And that's kind of how, in the beginning, it was all Microsoft. Well, Microsoft doesn't even have a game in this world, really, right?
Right.
But Microsoft was so dominant in our world in the computing, desktops, or laptop days. More and more, I think portable devices are here to stay.
They used to have a messenger, and I forget the name. It was like Microsoft Live or Hotmail something. I don't remember, but I know they used to have one that was at least a contender at one time.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying that's very strange indeed.
Teams would be their thing now, I guess.
I guess they say that, but Teams isn't even in the list, right?
Well, I look at it like Slack. It's like a work thing. Most people, I don't think, are using that recreationally, even though they're trying to install it and they're putting it on every single computer, no matter whether you have home or office or pro or whatever. They're forcing it onto your computers, which kind of bugs a little bit. But I still don't think people are using that much for just individuals.
Yeah, they're not. And when you say recreationally, what you mean is in your personal life, because a lot of these people
personally
in these other countries, they're using it to, book train tickets. They're using it to buy movie tickets. They're using it to book their hotels. They're using it to coordinate with people, not only on money, but, to meet up for different things. And they're using it to actually, believe it or not, run their lives, Jay. They're using it to schedule their tasks. They're using it to, and it's shocking how many people are really doing this. They have all kinds of things on their phones that do certain things, a whole stack of services that most of us don't even do.
Yeah, and I know we're not even talking about it here, but in China, it's all WeChat. That's the same thing like not Signal. WhatsApp is.
It's more like a Slack kind of a thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's very strange, and we brought it up because we thought it'd be interesting for you, and we also, I'm tempted to go to Android, and my family's like, no, don't you dare! How dare you consider that, and everything else. And I'm just saying,
your family will excommunicate you, Sam, if you do that. If you're in an
they
iPhone
just might,
family.
yeah.
Yeah, no, my family's like that. We have one holdout, and they're still Android, and it's they get a little bit of razzle about it, but it's not too bad. Everything works. You know why it works though? Because we're all on Telegram, and it doesn't matter. It's interoperable.
Well, and that saves you though. But otherwise, what you'd say is, hey, all my texts are weird, and then they'd say, well, I don't get these texts, or this doesn't respond the same way, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If we just had chat groups, we'd all be plagued by the green bubbles because of that one holdout, and that's exactly what happens.
And see, that's where I think that I really think Apple is kind of short-sighted. If they would have changed the game early enough, they would have way more users, Jay.
They would have. Now,
all right.
I bring up a lot of this because we talked about Telegram in some past episodes, and where they were the strongest and stuff. And so, just really quickly, Telegram usage by country. Believe it or not, India is number one. It's not Russia, where they were originally written. It is India is the number one largest Telegram user base in the world, followed by Russia, then Iran, then Indonesia, Brazil, Turkey, Ukraine, Mexico. United States is number 9. Germany's number 10. That's the top 10 users by country of Telegram.
And Russia's going to fall off very quickly because there's a story that just came out. Russia's Federal Security Service, what's that, FSB or whatever it's called, is investigating, how do you say this guy's name? Pavel Durov?
Pavel Durov.
Pavel Durov.
That's the guy
he's
that wrote
the founder of the messaging app Telegram. And they say that he's basically aiding terrorism. That's according to articles published by, and I don't even know how to say these news services, whatever. These Russian news services are all saying, hey, he's promoting terrorism, or he's at least allowing terrorism to happen on his platform. And so they're kind of after him and want to throw him in jail. This development comes amid these broader efforts from the Kremlin to tighten control over the internet's, basically they're throttling this tech. They're saying it's bad, that it's a concern. They want backdoors to it, or they want control of it. He's saying, not doing that. Durov, He's basically based in the United Arab Emirates, also faces several criminal charges in France with a possible 10-year prison sentence on that score. So, this guy's on the run to some degree, despite not formally announcing charges, is the interesting thing. The Russian authorities are portraying Telegram as a platform that compromises national security. The app, of course, is widely used in Russia, with over 100 million monthly users in Russia. And as you mentioned, it's even more so in India. But the founder, Durov, I guess is how you say it,
Yep.
denies the allegations, criticizing the Russian government's tactics and saying, hey, you know what? People should have access to Telegram. This is just not fair or true. I think that Russia is crazy on this personally. Because again, how do you control the platform? The very features that make it safe and secure for us to use are the features that they claim are the problem. You get rid of those, and what's the difference that Telegram brings to the table? So it's very strange, Jay.
I think it's encouraging personally because, the Russians are mad because they can't get their hooks into it. They don't have a back door into it. In fact, I've got some very quick responses from him. These are posts written by him, put out on Telegram. On February 10th, he said, Russia's restricting access to Telegram in an attempt to force its citizens to switch to state-controlled app built for surveillance and political censorship. 8 years ago, Iran tried the same strategy, and it failed. It banned Telegram on made-up pretext and trying to force people into a state-run alternative. Despite the ban, most Iranians still use Telegram, bypassing censorship, and prefer it to other surveilled apps. Restricting citizens' freedom is never the right answer. Telegram stands for freedom of speech and privacy, no matter the pressure. And then another quick sentence on February 24th, he just said, Russia has opened up a criminal case against me for, quote, aiding terrorism. Each day, the authorities fabricate new pretexts to restrict Russians' access to Telegram as they seek to suppress the right to privacy and free speech. A sad spectacle and a state, a sad spectacle of state afraid of its own people.
Yeah, and to his point, Iran is number 3 on the list of usability for Telegram, right?
I think it's encouraging as just a user of a Telegram. When you see these traditionally very information hungry, always want the back door kind of states mad at him about this stuff, including even France too, because they can't get their hooks into it. I see it as a positive thing. Actually, it may not be a positive thing for him. I mean, he's kind of like like you said, not even living in his home country now, but certainly a positive thing for the app, and to me, actually increase the trustworthiness of it.
Amen to that. When we come back, I want to talk about something else kind of interesting. There's another app out there. I don't know how they'll get any users, is kind of the hesitation that I have. I think what they've got is pretty interesting and pretty cool, though, folks. So we'll talk about that when we get back from the break. It's called Quanta Sure. QuantaSure.com. We'll talk about it because it's bringing some very unique things to the table. Jay said to get usability, you're going to have to bring something new to the table. I think he's right. Do they have enough? Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we are keeping an eye on tech and having a fun time doing it. Hopefully you're enjoying the broadcast as well. The website for the show, npitechguys.com. That's npitechguys.com. And we're adding the YouTube videos to the site too, so check that out. We're going to be on YouTube, Rumble, other sites, as well as on radio and everywhere else. So, hey, think your favorite platform, and if they have Tech Watch, check it out. If they don't, ask them, can you get Tech Watch? And, hopefully you can email us, talk@techwatchradio.com, and we'd love to hear what you have to say, and we'll go ahead and try to add your favorite platform to the mix. Meanwhile, if you want to partner in IT, think networkprovidersinc.com. They're great with security, networking, strategy, AI, a whole lot more. Just networkprovidersinc.com. All right, so we're talking about this new messaging app that's coming to the table. I don't know how they're going to get any market share is the problem when other apps have 3 billion users and 1 billion users and stuff. It's just hard for me to fathom. But at the same time, if you build a better mousetrap, as Jay says, well, there's some people trying to do that. It's called Quanta Sure. And you got to type the website in. If you just go to Google, it'll lead you to an insurance company. That's, again, part of the problem of the world we live in, right? But it's Quanta, Quanta Sure, S-U-R-E, QuantaSure.com. And they've got some unique twists to what they have. First off, it's a paid app. And that's going to make it very hard for them.
That's going to make it uphill battle right there.
$5 a month for the minimum if you're an individual. $4, $3, down to $2 if you've got a lot of users per month. But it's being pitched as kind of across the business world and the personal world, Jay, which is interesting. So it might take the place of Slack or Teams because they've got video and audio and a bunch of things. It eventually might be able to take on some of the other apps that people use in their personal life too. That's kind of the play they're pitching. And they're also pitching some unique things. Let's start out with a comparison chart to make some points, Jay.
Okay. I've got their FAQ pulled up.
Okay, let's start there. The FAQ is fine first.
Okay, hold on. FAQ. So now they do, their website is Quanta Sure, SURE.com, but it looks like they're just going by Quanta as kind of what they say. They say, what is Quanta? Quanta is a comprehensive secure communications platform for individuals, families, small and large organizations where privacy and security are important. Users can host and participate in video conferences, make one-on-one group and voice video calls, send text, share documents, photos, videos with anyone who has a Quanta account. Quanta works on any device, desktop, tablet, or phone, using any operating system, Mac OS, Windows OS, iOS, Android, Linux. Quanta is designed as an enterprise communications platform in contrast to the consumer apps that are free and open to the general public. We achieve this by a combination of 12 features that make Quanta useful and necessary for individuals, families, small organizations, and enterprises when privacy and security are paramount.
So that's a very interesting proposition to start out of who they are and stuff like that. Let's go ahead. What other FAQ things do they have? I already covered the pricing a little bit really quick, right?
They say, I already use Zoom or WhatsApp. Why do I need Quanta? And their response is, unlike mainstream platforms, Quanta is designed around security with quantum-resistant encryption, QRE, automatically enabled for all forms of communication. As an enterprise platform, Quanta is the only platform with confidentiality, privacy, and security built in. No other app or platform offers the combination of 12 key features that make this possible. Your communications are protected, not just against today's risks, but also against the security threats of the future. For example, there is an imminent threat called Harvest Now, Decrypt Later, where malicious actors intercept messages that are encrypted with today's technology in the hopes of using quantum computer to read them in the future. This makes the most common encryption protocols because quantum computers can break current encryption technology. So, I guess that's probably where they're coming from, this quantum name or Quanta name.
That's exactly right.
Quantum resistant or trying to be for security measures.
And I think it's a great proposition. The people are Christian. They're in the United States. They say they protect you. They collect less information on you than others do. Any other quick FAQs? And then we can go to kind of the comparison chart because that kind of, I think, is the key that highlights the features.
Do I have to stop using my other platforms? No, not at all. You can adopt Quanta gradually. Many users keep their existing tools. They offer features, yada, yada. What makes quantum security different? Well, we know about that. Is it a paid service? Yes.
How to sign up? Which I already gave. They also say that the interesting thing about it is that it cannot communicate with anybody else. So anybody that you communicate with it has to be on it too.
Yeah. One of them is, can I use Quanta for my business or my team? Yes, Quanta offers plans tailored for groups of all types, including administrative controls and group management features. Does support calls and groups. We already know that.
It does groups,
all operating
it does
systems.
Individuals, it does videos, it does audio, it does everything like that. It does chat, it does all that kind of stuff.
Can I make phone calls to numbers outside of Quanta? No. To protect security of our environment, you can't do that. So that's interesting. But even like Telegram doesn't do that either. So, I'm trying to find, and let's switch over to this comparison feature and see if they compare this to some other ones.
Yeah, they compare it to all the ones we just talked about. That's why I kind of brought this company up. Just so you know, I went to the Religious Broadcasters event, and that's where I saw this technology. And they're basically saying, hey, this is for Christians, and this is for American people who want liberty, want security, and others, even though they claim they do it, they don't. And that's their pitch. I'm not saying that's factual. That's what they claim, right?
Yeah. So they say conferencing, they do it. They say also that Teams, Zoom, WhatsApp does not do it. Signal does. I've done conferencing like Zoom on Telegram. Meet-In, I don't even know that one, but they do it. Let's see. Voice one-to-one. They say Zoom doesn't do that, but everybody else besides Meet-In also doesn't do that. Video one-to-one. They say Zoom doesn't do that, but obviously it does, right? You've had one-to-one Zoom calls with people.
Oh, yeah.
Messaging, including secure file transfer. They say Teams doesn't do that. Zoom doesn't do that. Okay.
But I think many of those do some of those things, Jay. And so
Yeah.
what I think we might need to do is get them on and kind of talk about it a little bit more. I think it's interesting to discuss some of that,
Yeah.
because they might mean certain things of, hey, they do it, but it's not encrypted or safe, or they might, is it really one-to-one? They would say, well, maybe not. Maybe it goes to their servers first. Whereas, these one of the things when I talked to them in person so far is they said, hey, all these other companies, if you send a file, they'll save the file on their server. They keep a copy of it. Whereas if you send it, these guys, nothing is kept on any servers.
Yeah, and it's a pretty exhaustive thing. You should check it out on their website. They do say things like disappearing messages. Most people don't support it. They actually say Telegram doesn't support it, but it does. I don't know. Some of their information may be a little bit out of date because that is kind of a newer feature. Secure file transfer. They say things like, yes, on some of them you got to do cloud stored stuff, or you got to do a secret chat, which is true. These guys do it by default. Subscription based. They act like that's a feature. Subscription based. No, they're the only ones that do that. And Meet-In is also subscription based, but I don't think that's really a feature, but okay.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on how you define subscription-based. If you, for example, can use WhatsApp for free or some of these others for free, and then there's a subscription-based, they're kind of making that point. Whereas Zoom is subscription-based and free, but yet, hey, we're talking about $2 a month to $5 a month for this per user. If you have a real user on Zoom, it's $15 a month or something like that for a user. And
business users even more.
Or if you do Teams, for example, I don't even know how to describe Teams because they have a free version, but it doesn't do much. Then they have the paid version, but you got to have Office to get that whole thing. And so, every one of them has their uniqueness to it. This is pretty interesting, though. And if they can bring some, unique tools to the table, they might get somewhere. I don't think they'll ever rival the billion user stuff. But I do think they might get a lot of private, small Christian business stuff on it, and eventually have a pretty good following of, in the millions. I think that's totally possible and probable, Jay.
And I will say to their credit, to make a sort of a spreadsheet like this and compare when a lot of things just aren't apples to apples, or there's so many nuances to it, is very difficult.
It's very difficult, and I commend them for doing it because others don't have that. I don't. If you go to Telegram, do they have a comparison with all the other popular apps out there?
I don't know because I haven't been to their website in a while. But
anyway,
do you have this? My next question is, Sam, do you have this? Or are you able to use it?
I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to, because the first thing I said to them is that speech accessible, and they basically flat out said, you know what, sir, we don't know. And I said, okay, well, I'll find out and I'll tell you. So I got to work on this, but I got to have people to communicate with to play with it. But if I can play with it. And the other interesting thing they said is, Sam, if it's not, if you'll help us, we'll make it so.
Well,
that was quite impressive too.
That's agile.
And I don't know how to get a hold of, even though this guy in the Emirates or whatever it is, and he's on the run from the Russians and from the
Pavel
from France and everybody else, I don't know how to get a hold of him and see if he'll do that for me, but
Oh, you can just text him directly, man, right on Telegram.
By the way, there is a plug-in for Telegram now for speech users, and I'm going to be trying to play with that too.
Oh, I can't wait. I'd love to get Sam on there. That would be great.
Yeah, and then maybe I don't want to be compromised. Maybe I got to go to Quanta. Maybe the Russians will hate me too because I'm on there. I don't know.
They already hate you, Sam. It's okay.
I thought they loved me. I thought they thought I was awesome. Anyway, Amazon cuts ties with surveillance firm, Jay. This is pretty interesting.
Yeah, so Amazon Ring ended its partnership.
So we're talking
Amazon's
about the doorbell
Ring.
people now, right?
Yeah, because Amazon owns them, right?
Yes.
They ended their partnership with the law enforcement technology company Flock Safety Systems after their Super Bowl ad sparked. It was a huge backlash. Privacy
I don't see why they had
concerns.
this partnership in the first place. And this is kind of what we're talking about, where Quantum comes to the table and says, listen, we don't have any of those compromising things. One of the unique things about Quantum, too, is they say, we don't use all the other servers where we can be taken down like everybody else. We use our own. That's interesting, too, Jay.
I don't know who was in charge of this or thought this was a good idea, or at least I could see why some people would just, oh, that is so cool, but not to take it one step further and go, wait a second, you mean you can track everything? So the ad shows Ring's search party feature, which was activates neighborhood cameras to scan for missing pets. So if your dog got loose, it'd look through everybody's cameras, and in conjunction with Flock. And critics say the technology could easily be turned on to track down people, destroying privacy outside the home. and turning people's own equipment, their own doorbell cameras, like against everybody in the neighborhood. Ring says that the Flock deal, which would have let owners share their footage with law enforcement, never went live, and no customer videos were ever shared. But my goodness, that's one of the
Hey,
biggest.
I got a bridge to sell you, Jay.
That's one of the biggest blowbacks I've seen in a long time. It's like
With
the
good
Dylan
reason,
Mulvaney
Jay.
thing with the Bud Light. I mean, it just really backfired like they didn't think it was going to.
And with good reason, though. I don't know why they're doing that anyway. I mean, I get the idea of that, but I can share footage already if they give me the ability to download or copy my footage. I can send it to anybody I want to, can't I?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. But,
So why do they need to do that for me? In other words, eventually it'll be like, oh, by default, it's just turned on.
Well, at the very least, it should be opt-in, right? You should have to say yes.
I would think
and
so,
they
but
don't
that's the
by
problem.
default. They haven't. Yeah, that is the big problem. And the same with the Flock cameras. I mean, everybody sees, I think, can see the upside of it, of tracking, or they don't have to do so much these high-speed chases and things if they just have Flock cameras all over. They know where the car's going. But the downsides of it, the potential for abuse, just outweigh the goodness because it's so crazy in the wrong hands. It's like tech, we say that about AI too. We're seeing spammers get really good at spamming and convincing people and tricking people because of AI tech, and it's kind of the same thing of who has control and how it's being used.
And AI might be able to dupe and make you believe it's Sam, but you'll never have AI dupe and believe it's Jay. Just so you know.
That's not true. That
That
could
kind of
probably.
intelligence AI just can't get to people. So I'm telling you that the Pentagon's in kind of a similar situation, Jay. They're going to be dropping some partners, right?
Yeah, the Pentagon is considered ending its relationship with artificial intelligence company Anthropic over AI firm insistence on maintaining limitations on how the military can use its models. The military wants access to AI tools for all lawful purposes, which means anything they want to, basically, because they feel like they make the laws, but including weapons development, intelligence, battlefield operations. Anthropic has said that there's two main uses they refuse to do, which is mass surveillance of Americas and fully autonomous weapons. They just say we won't do that.
And I hope that's really true, Jay. I hope that's not just a great, hey, put out white sheets for the public and claim that, and then behind the scenes we find out they've Googled us, because Google used to say that. When Google got caught doing all kind of things, driving down your road, taking a picture of your front yard and all this kind of stuff, then they claimed, oh, we stopped, and then we found out they didn't stop. And I mean, there's even pictures of Google in front of my house. Listen to this. We set up a tent, because I help people with a camping gear company. We set up a test tent, and we poured water on the tent, and we were testing its features to not, drip inside and all this kind of stuff. And believe it or not, we had the tent up for 2 or 3 days while we were doing this test. Google drove by and took those, pictures of that while they claimed they didn't. And I know for a fact they did, or they couldn't have got the tent in my yard.
Well, there goes your home value. It looks like you got squatters in your front yard now.
I mean, so that's what I mean is it's like, what on earth is happening? So I hope these people aren't just playing us, Jay.
Yeah. Defense officials say those limits create gray areas and could disrupt operations if the AI blocks certain applications. The Pentagon sees Anthropic as more cautious and ideological rather than an AI company that's relying on safety risks. And so replacing Anthropic would be difficult because the models are already integrated into specialized government systems. However, Anthropic has a contract up to $200 million and was first to deploy AI models based on classified Pentagon networks. However, other firms, OpenAI, Google, and XAI, which is Grok, are working with the Pentagon in unclassified environments and are negotiating expanding roles. And we've already heard since then that Grok may actually have a foothold with that, and they may already be starting to test stuff. So.
Well, and it's interesting to me that all the other companies they're not working with are willing to do it, and they're not willing to do it, and that's the one they've got an embedded relationship with. It's very strange, Jay.
Yeah, it is very strange. I like the idea that Anthropic has these principles, but I think that the Pentagon's going to get this done with or without them. They're going to find somebody, anybody that's either going to partner with them or they'll build it themselves. They just have money from everywhere they can throw at this problem.
And the future is, I wish that the government would have those same principles that. Is it Anthropic that has?
Yes, Anthropic.
Okay, I'm just saying that, I wish the government had that too, because if they really did, this might not be a big concern, Jay.
Yeah, they should have similar principles, right? They should be putting their own guardrails up and not being imposed upon them by a third company. But, I can understand the position they're in because they are tasked with both defending at all costs and at the same time, they need to keep it humanitarian and constitutional and everything else. And so those can sometimes be at odds with each other, and it's probably a hard position to be in.
Yeah, you got that right. So it's very strange. It's kind of difficult. And to me, the reason we bring it up is not a political discussion here. This is a privacy discussion, Jay.
Absolutely. It's a privacy and it's a humanitarian, and are we going to put up any guardrails? Is it just everything goes under the name of national security? I don't think so. I think there's some things that you've got to have that Chinese firewall, and we're not going to cross this line.
And let's even kind of say this too, even if you believe the government's on the up and up, which I know, what about?
It's a big if.
I understand, but what if though, people get breached or the government gets hacked or this or that gets leaked, and so I don't even sometimes from a privacy point of view want to blame somebody that might have this information. It's what might happen to it unintended that brings up even a greater concern.
Exactly.
Really beyond anybody's hands or control, right?
That's the biggest problem with having backdoors to encryption is, let's say you give the government backdoor to every encryption. They've got this, secret master key. Well, as soon as that gets released, as soon as somebody either figures it out or devolves it or whatever, now it's broken for everybody in every which way. And that kind of thing, it's almost better to just make something very secure and just say, hey, you guys got to use, other means to gather the information that you need. You just can't have full access, unfettered to everything.
And that's why I don't understand, why do these companies gather so much information on people and store all this information? They know they're going to be hacked. It's not a matter of if in the current environment, it's a matter of when. And so why do they gather all these details? That's one of the things that Quanta Sure was talking about is, hey, they just gather your phone number and I think your email address or something like that, and then they have to have one billing account or whatever, but they don't gather as much information and store it as everybody else does. That's impressive to me too, and I think whether they're successful as a huge messaging company or not, they're actually piloting a standard, Jay.
Yeah, and I think that's actually starting to happen, and it's smart in business atmosphere altogether. Before it was, hey, let's gather everything we can because there may be ways in the future we can leverage this, or we can sell it, or we can do whatever to gain more insights about our customers or anything else. Now I think a lot of businesses are being smart about it and saying, look, we don't want to be the caretakers of all this information. Just because we're getting logs and all and data and all this ancillary side data about our customers, we don't want to be responsible for that if that breaks out or if there's a problem with that or whatever. And so they're purposely putting up guardrails against that stuff, and which is smart in my opinion, because they can't, you can never be sued or caught red-handed selling data on your customers if you just don't keep it and you don't have it,
or inadvertently, unintentionally, no offense to them, but leaking it, right?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Having it be hacked or stolen or whatever else. That can't happen. I mean, you don't need to know that one of my favorite foods is specialty pizza, right?
It reminds me of.
Got to know that, Jay.
Exactly. It reminds me of on server side how
unless you're my friend, then you want to take me out to eat. Then you got to know that, Jay.
Then you better write it down in your contacts for Sam.
That's right. Yeah, man, he loves. What do they call that? Not just regular pizza. I love, what's that kind of pizza called?
Deep dish? I don't know.
No,
what is Sam? Sam loves every kind of pizza from my experience.
I love it. It's Slackwater. That's the name of a pizza. But I'm talking about it's gourmet is the word I'm looking for.
Wow.
I mean, pizza's great.
I don't know that I've had that.
If you've had gourmet pizza with me, every time you go out to pizza, you eat gourmet pizza, buddy.
Oh, okay.
Not just the big chains like, that put whatever cornmeal on your pizza and all this other weird
Oh,
garbage.
yeah.
I'm talking about companies that make, custom, unique, gourmet, specialty pizza. I mean, quality.
I have done that with Sam before.
Yeah. And
in Orlando is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, we've been to pizza. So I love great pizza. And I know that's a derail. But, they've got these high-tech pizza ovens that I'm wanting to play with and check out too, Jay, nowadays. Back in the day, you had to really, know what you're doing. Nowadays, you can get good pizza even if you're not an expert because these ovens and stuff do such a killer job in terms of how long it needs to cook, and it cooks so fast and all kinds of cool stuff.
I think lunch is right after this. Sam's just getting hungry.
You also think I can turn anything into a tech discussion, right, Jay?
Absolutely. But going back to the just keeping the information you need, it reminds me of people now with servers. You used to be you'd store everybody's password. You just store their password. Now you hash it, you salt it, you do all these things. You store only the end derivation of the
Kind of
password.
like making pizza. You hash it and you salt
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah,
and
see?
you end up with the piece that you're saving on your server that if anybody gets, if it ever gets cracked or broken, released on the dark web, whatever, it's not people's passwords. So that it's really like useless information to everybody else. And so that's the smart way to go about it.
And
That's
it's
how
becoming a
businesses
lot
should be
harder
doing
to
it.
tie it to the account the way they're doing it now too.
Right. And I mean, let's say you have some hashed password and you got, Sam's email address and this blob of text that means nothing without all the other pieces that go with it. That's a smart way to do it. And that's the way everybody should be doing. Store as little information as you need, especially on your customers. Protect them and put their privacy and their protection first in your business.
And it's a great thing they're doing with credit cards now, too. A lot of the credit card services, it's PCI compliance that's kind of driving this, Jay. But a lot of times right now when people ask me, hey, Sam, I need to pay you. In the old days, I used to take their credit card, write it down, put it in some key machine at my office or do this or that,
Right.
or somehow store it so that I could charge their card again later. And now I don't do any of that. You know what I do? I just use QuickBooks and send them a link and say, hey, here's your invoice. Here's a link to pay.
Yep.
And now I never even touch their data, Jay. I don't even have it.
You don't have
There's
it.
no way you can say that I charged it when I wasn't supposed to, or I somehow got breached and lost it, or whatever, or got compromised. I never had it, people. So it didn't happen,
That's-
guaranteed.
That is exactly the way to do it properly. And it reminds me of like tap to pay and stuff now with Apple Wallet and these things. When it makes that transaction, it actually creates a tokenized transaction. And so that is, even if you have that data and you were saving it, which most systems don't do or can't do anyway, you can never repeat that transaction. It's a one-time
Yeah,
thing.
because the key is part of the token. In other words, even if you had that whole thing encrypted, the key's now gone, right?
Right. And so it's just super safe. It's the right way to do it. I tell people this. I was talking to a business owner that I was helping with recently. And, they were writing down credit card numbers for people because they're like, hey, if they don't make their payments, we want to be able to have a
Kidding me
backup.
right now?
And I was like, number one, you don't want to do this because you don't want the problem of that book getting
Liability.
stolen or whatever, right? Number two, you can't charge somebody's card without their permission anyway because they can just reverse it. You don't have any leverage by having their credit card number. It's just a liability, and you need to get rid of that. And they did.
But if they try to challenge me, I'm like, people, I sent them a link and they charged their card. Now we can talk about reversing it by all means,
Right.
if it's justified. But you're not just going to ding my quote merchant account.
Yeah, because they
Right.
did it. The onus was on them.
All right. Anyway, Microsoft now is, in my opinion, everything they do seems to go the wrong direction. And I love Microsoft and I sell Microsoft, so I don't mean to be critical. But when they do things to complicate my world, Jay, it's very tough. So Microsoft has launched 2 separate development tracks for Windows 11 now. Is the show over, or do we have one more segment?
No, we're done for today, but
We're
we'll be
done.
back.
All right, well then I'm telling you right now, there's 2 separate tracks for Windows 11. It's good because it's going to support a lot of machines. It's bad because it's going to complicate the world for us. Anyway, we'll let you know about that next time. Thanks so much for watching. NPITechGuys.com, NetworkProvidersInc.com, Sam and Jay. Make it a great tech day, will you? Hey, thanks.